Commentary Booth is a show for media lovers by media lovers just like you. If you want to support the show, go to pariomagazine.com.au. Welcome to the Commentary Booth, where we watch, and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator, Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an aircon estimator who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome to the show, Corrina Mabey.
Hi. How's it going?
Excited to be here in person.
Yes. Super exciting.
The other big show, like we mentioned, they spent an amazing amount of money on this one.
Ungodly amounts of money, I imagine.
The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, fantasy television series based on the books by J.R.R. Tolkien. This time set in the Second Age of Middle-earth, thousands of years before The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and covering essentially what leads up to the forging of the rings that become the major element of Sauron's rise and demise and re-rise in the Lord of the Rings movies. Yeah. Produced by Amazon Studios in cooperation with HarperCollins, New Line Cinema, and in consultation with the Tolkien estate, which is a big thing. Tolkien's grandson, Simon, consulted in the development of the series. They have said it's not a continuation of the movies. It's like a sub-story. But they have tried to design everything so it fits, which is I think they've done a good job so far.
Yeah, I think they have too, because you see characters that later on show up in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So they've done a good job of kind of slowly incorporating that, but not full on putting it in your face like, hey, this is this.
And like, even like visually, it feels like it should be a major movie, not an Amazon streaming show.
No, every episode I go, wow, this is like a mini movie. Like, it's just like a full on production at this point. Like, I feel like I'm just watching another Lord of the Rings movie, honestly, because they're just so massive.
And like, just the CGI elements.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Like, it looks so good. It doesn't look like a Netflix or Amazon streaming show where you can pick up on the dodgy elements, like where the budget has been pulled back. But
yeah, no, this is definitely, I mean, if they ever wanted to, if they had thought about it and they wanted to do like a theatrical release of like mini movie or something like that, this would have been perfect because it's just that good.
Yeah, like if New Line Cinema want to spin off another movie out of this,
They've got it.
Just employ this crew of CGI artists because
they're fantastic.
They've done a great job. But like we're saying, the budget-wise, insane. Amazon bought the rights in 2017 for $250 million after essentially being stuck in a bidding war with Netflix themselves and HBO. They all wanted... But then with Game of Thrones, I can see why HBO probably dropped out.
Yeah, because I feel like if they had both of those, they wouldn't know what to do. I feel one would have faltered if they had been in charge of both of them.
It would have been overload on fantasy stuff, and I think people would have split and watched one or the other. Whereas now that they're on separate things, I think people are going to watch both.
And as much as I love Netflix, I don't think they would have been able to pull it off as much as Amazon did with this one.
Well, they definitely wouldn't hit the budget.
Well, yeah.
Because Amazon, when they bought it, they committed to making 5 seasons. So that's already done. And they've committed $1 billion to the creation of those 5 seasons, making it the most expensive television series ever made. And as part of the deal, it was stipulated that they begin production within 2 years because a Lord of the Rings show has been something that's been rumoured for probably like decades now since the movies came out. So yeah, they were basically like, I think the Tolkien estate was like, if you're going to do this, you can't just buy the rights and then sit on it for years. Like,
we want it.
You got to get this done within 2 years and get it rolling, which they've done. And apparently Jeff Bezos was personally involved in the negotiations. He was so keen on getting this show for Amazon. Like, he normally doesn't get involved in the entertainment side.
Yeah.
But he was super desperate to get this show for Amazon because apparently he mandated that Amazon develop a fantasy show on the scale of Game of Thrones, and then this popped up. And he was
Yeah,
like,
that's perfect. Perfect timing.
let's just spend the money and get this, and we'll go from there. Like, we don't have to develop a whole new world and lore and everything.
No,
Like,
yeah, it's already there.
we have a base layer. We can just build off that.
Mm-hmm.
But then they spend $1 billion. So.
I mean, it's good to see that my Prime membership went to good use.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. Didn't disappoint.
And it seems to be paying off so far. In the first 24 hours, 25 million viewers
Yeah, all right.
for 2 episodes.
That's a bit much.
Like, I was expecting it to do well with given how much they sort of promoted the hell out of this show.
But that was
But
amazing.
25 million is insane.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic though. I'm sure they're all very happy about that.
Like we said, they've spent $1 billion, but I think even the trailer they put out, I think that trailer cemented in people's minds that they're not half-assing this.
Yeah, no, the trailer is what sold me. I hadn't thought about Lord of the Rings for a while, just because I had heard so many different rumors about shows and spin-offs and this and that. And I go, all right, well, you know, it might happen, it might not happen. And then even going back to when they released the Hobbit series movies, those were good, but it didn't do for me what the original Lord of the Rings trilogy did for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't really thought too much about it, and I went into it thinking, all right, it's going to be good, but who knows how good it's going to be. And so now I'm like full on dedicated to it.
Yeah, like that trailer with the forging of the rings was like apparently all practical.
Yeah.
It's not CG.
Oh,
They actually poured a mixture of bronze and aluminium into sand molds, filmed it at 5,000 frames per second so that they could slow it right down and show it in ultra slow motion. So proved that it was worth it.
Aluminum.
Aluminium, you weirdo.
He said the word and it made me just think about that, and it's aluminum.
Nah.
The trailer was really good, though. I really did appreciate that. They did a really good job on that, and it got me really pumped for this series.
And like we said, there's a lot of CGI in it, but they've also incorporated a lot of practical effects as well.
Which I appreciate.
All the orcs in this show are apparently like just real people wearing
Like FX makeup?
latex masks but like high quality latex masks that are thin enough that they can still move them with their face and like act, not just here's a blank mask and we're gonna have to come in later and CGI in the emotions. Like they're really high quality masks that they can actually still move their mouth and eyes and stuff in the mask. Which
I love that. I really appreciate when they do that, when they put forth the effort to do that, because it just looks so much better.
Yeah.
It looks better on film. You get more emotion out of each character, and you know it's not just generic, because you can only do so much with a computer. I mean, every movement, yeah, it might seem unique or something like that, but there's only so many ways you can make someone like or scrunch their face or something like that.
And at least by doing it this way, they can, if they do have to go in and do CGI, it's only going to be little minor tweaks here or there, like maybe for lighting or to highlight eyes and things. It's not going to be full face changing, so that's cool. And apparently we're getting female orcs for the first time as well.
That'll be interesting to see.
So that'll be cool.
That'll be a really interesting concept.
Like, I noticed there's been like a few changes. We saw black elves apparently for the first time. There's like black and white Harfoots, which are essentially hobbits.
Yeah, they're really cute too. Like I like their whole character concept. They're really interesting to me.
Yeah, when we were watching it and they kept saying Harfoot, I was like, aren't they just
hobbit?
hobbits?
Yeah, and I couldn't really tell if they were or weren't either, because they don't resemble a hobbit necessarily, but they also
live the same way.
Yeah.
They're small. They have the like big hairy feet.
But then when they showed like the hunter people, or the hunters, or
Yep.
Yeah, when they showed them in comparison, they were way tinier than like a hobbit would be, because if you think back to like the hobbits in Lord of the Rings, they were short, but they weren't like that tiny. These people were like fairy size.
Yeah, so I think like I was reading somewhere like in the Lord of the Rings books, there's hobbits are like a class of species, and then within that, there's like Harfoots and 2 other types.
Oh, okay.
So I think they're just like
A
they're
spin-off.
hobbits, but like different sizes and
Yeah.
slightly variations. But yeah, they were cool. But yeah, I do like the idea of female orcs, black elves. Like, it's not going to be as divided as they were in the movies. Like,
Yeah.
in the movies, it was all the elves are white with blonde hair.
All the orcs are...
All the hobbits are short. All the orcs are men. But
Yeah, they're... Yeah.
apparently, that's them trying to make this more akin to the books, where it wasn't so much divisive. I think the movies being made when they were just trying to really define clear lines of
Yeah.
this is an elf, this is a hobbit.
And I think people already had, like, in their mindset, like, just from reading fantasy books and stuff like that, like, that is what an elf is supposed to look like. It's supposed to be exactly like that. And they just used that. But I like how they've definitely grown with their ideas on that.
But yeah, like, we do get like the we've already seen like the black elf running around and fighting orcs and stuff in the town, which is cool.
Yeah.
What did you think of episode 1 overall?
I like it. I'm really, really excited to see like how far they go with the character storylines and stuff like that. It's interesting to see how dedicated. I always fuck up her name. What is it?
Galadriel.
Galadriel. Yeah. I liked how dedicated she was to pursuing like what happened with her brother and stuff like that. Like, she was just nonstop. Like, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I know everything's become like a strong female lead character now. Like, that's the new standard, I feel, with a bunch of new shows. But in this, I feel like it's justified. And they're not just focusing solely on her anymore. It is going to other characters too, and other parts of the realm and things like that. So I do like that a lot.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's kind of like Game of Thrones was in the first season, where there's all these different stories happening at the same time, and eventually they're all going to come together.
Yes.
And then that's going to be a cool moment.
Yeah.
I thought episode 1 was good, but episode 2 was what finally sold me. Like, I thought episode 1 was... Obviously, it was going to be slower because it was introducing you to all these different stories and different characters. So it felt pretty slow.
Yeah.
But then episode 2, like, they're like, okay, you know everyone now. We're going to ramp it up. We're going to throw in some crazy elf battles and an orc just randomly popping up out of the ground.
Yeah. That was a creepy thing too. Like, they did a really good job with like the character design on the orcs. I love the way that they look right now. Like, their long fingernails, they've got like, you know, crazy stuff going on with their faces, and they don't look very generic. Like, you know, thinking back to the movies, they were very like, there's only like maybe 3 or 4 kind of designs on them, whereas these ones, they look like they're going to be more individualized.
What did you think of Theo, the little kid, finding the broken Sauron sword and being an idiot and like touching it?
I'm really intrigued to see what happens with him. He seems like, I don't know, he seems like just a like average like teenager kind of kid who, you know, wants to break rules and stuff like that. He also is very like anti-elf.
Yeah, that seems
and
to
he
be
makes
a big
that very
thing.
known, and everybody in that town seems to be very like not happy about their presence there.
Yeah, I was reading it's basically because the elves have been dispatched there to watch over that town, because that town is all descendants of people that were allies of Morgoth, like Sauron's leader.
Yeah.
So they're all like, the elves are like watching them being like, we still don't trust you.
Right.
So then that's like playing back with the men not trusting the elves at the same time.
Yeah, so I feel like that might play a role in like how touching that sword might have affected him. I like how they've just like hinted it a little bit, like he's been targeted kind of almost, or it seems like he's been targeted.
Yeah, I think like it's kind of like, what's his name? Not Samwise, the other. Frodo.
Yeah.
Like him touching the ring and like forming a connection.
Yeah, I think it's the same concept.
A similar concept.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens if he's able to kind of just get on with life and pretend that nothing happened, or if he actually brings it up to his mom, like, hey, something weird's going on. I doubt he's going to do that, though, because he doesn't seem like he would be that kind of kid.
No, I think, yeah, he's going to end up having some sort of role to play in unknowingly bringing Sauron back, and then that's going to
Yeah,
cause these big fights.
100%.
I'm also intrigued by the weird meteor man that the halflings
Oh
have
yeah, the
like
one that just
encountered,
flew down out of nowhere and was like,
who can't talk,
who
but
can't talk, but he likes fireflies and
uses fireflies to
kills fireflies eventually.
to show constellations and stuff. So I'm interested to see where that's going. Like,
Yeah, I don't know what he's supposed to be. If he's supposed to be maybe like Sauron in male form, because everything kind of happened all at once. Like there were flashes here and there, and he kind of just like touched down at the same time that other stuff was going on. So
yeah, like
I don't know.
I kept getting like kind of Gandalf-y vibes from him,
Okay.
but I was like, is he supposed to be like a young Gandalf that just like hasn't worked out his powers and connection to humans yet? Or
Yeah. I don't know.
is he Sauron? I don't know. There's a lot of intrigue in this like first 2 episodes of I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm still like super keen to find out more, which is weird.
Yeah, I appreciate it though because they've definitely done a good job of hinting to things, but not full on putting them out there yet. So, and they've done a really good job of not being able to let you connect the dots either because they've left it so open ended it could go either way really.
And then the other big thing we got to see in the second episode was the elf guy being sent to work with the smith, and then them going to the dwarves and trying to establish a union with the
Common ground
dwarves
almost,
to
yeah.
build a really gigantic forge, which is obviously they're going to come to that agreement,
Yeah.
build this big forge, and then forge the rings. Like, that I felt like that was the only thing that was super clear about what's happening.
Right, yeah.
They've kind of made it look like it might not happen, but
Not really.
the show is called Rings of Power. Like,
Yeah.
at some point, we're going to have to
gonna
build this
happen.
forge.
You did not mention sea monsters. I was
yeah.
really happy about a sea monster finally because in the entire Lord of the Rings universe, they've never once mentioned sea creatures. So I was really happy that they finally dawned on that because you don't know what's out there in the oceans or anything like that. Or what
Yeah, I
other
guess,
things are
yeah.
lurking.
In the movies, we've only ever seen on land and then the big flying bird things. We haven't actually been on the ocean.
Right, yeah. So I was really happy when they finally did that and just kind of branched out a little bit because it just shows that there are more creatures and stuff like that out there in that entire universe almost.
Yeah. They didn't show much of the sea monster, but it was massive.
It was massive. Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, I don't know. So far, I'm pretty hooked. I'm interested to see where it goes in the next, what did I say, 10 episodes?
I hope it's 10 episodes.
I think it's 8 or 10. I can't remember. I thought I had it written down, but yeah. I think it's like 8 or 10 episodes. So I'm interested to see where
Sounds
it
about
goes.
right.
The dwarves were cool. I really like the way the dwarves looked.
I like,
I like the guys with the like helmets that even covered their beards.
yeah, like they got to protect their beard. I like the dwarf's wife. I forget her name.
Disa?
Is that, yeah, I love her. She's hilarious. You're not staying for dinner. You're staying for dinner,
He's
honey.
staying for dinner. Durin's just like, okay, jeez, I don't want him here, but
Whatever. Yeah, she's wonderful. I love her so much. I think she's a great like side character additive, and she adds like a little bit of a comedy element to it, which is nice since it's such a serious kind of show.
yep. Yeah, so 2 episodes so far. Pretty intriguing. Interested to see where it goes. But if you were to give a top recommendation out of the 2,
I'm going with Hot D. I'm gonna call it Hot D now, just because that's a thing. It's just because that's more my speed of blood and fighting, violence.
yeah, I think Lord of the Rings could get up there, but like I guess we've really only had 1 extra episode, but it feels like so much more has happened.
Yeah,
in
I
Game
think
of
it's just because
Thrones.
they're so. Yeah, because I feel Game of Thrones is already such an established thing, so we already kind of went into it expecting certain things to happen, maybe, and we had like the whole idea of, all right, this is the backstory of the Targaryens, whereas Lord of the Rings, we don't really know, other than the fact that it's supposed to be about how the Nine Rings came about. We don't really know anything else.
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, it felt slower. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think because they've committed to 5 seasons already, they don't want to be like, let's rush through a bunch of stuff in the first 2
Yeah.
episodes and then be like, oh god, how do we
do this?
stretch this out? So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a slower show,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm interested to see when the rings are made. Like,
Yeah.
are they going to draw
Yeah.
this out so the entire first season is leading up to the rings and then the rings are made in the last episode?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they going to like bring the rings in earlier and start to spread them around the world?
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see how that happens. If they want to spread them out, they're going to have a lot of character development, I think, to cover between now and the last episode. Because there's just so many new people we haven't met yet. And so, like, because...
Yeah, well, so far we've got what, elves,
Mm-hmm.
hobbits, men, dwarves.
And there's 9 that we're supposed to
Yeah,
technically get.
so there's heaps more.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'm really excited to see new characters when they get introduced, and what all happens if anyone decides to turn and side with the orcs. And I kind of also want to see Trees. I love Treebeard. He's one of my favorite characters from Lord of the Rings. So I want to see Trees again. And we did briefly see them. Like when they panned out during certain things, I saw like moving trees. So
Oh,
I got a little
didn't see
excited.
that. I wonder if how close to the movies they take this
Take it.
show across the 5 seasons. Like, do they take it right up to where the movies start, or do they stop way before that?
It'll be interesting. They have to. I feel like they have to eventually introduce like Gandalf or.
Yeah, well, Gandalf is like a really old being.
Yeah, and he was there like when it happened. He always talks about that kind of stuff. So they do eventually have to like touch base on that. So I'll be interested to see when they incorporate him
And
how
who they
and
cast.
who. Yeah, because that's some big shoes to fill. I'll tell you.
That's not a random role that you just give to anyone, I
Anybody.
guess. So yeah, for me, Game of Thrones as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much everything. We'll let you go back and eat all your snacks.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee for all of your crazy horror spookiness, which
It's
given the time of year, there's going to be a lot of that.
August 1st was the first day of Halloween, just so you guys know.
Off to Halloween Horror Nights as soon as you get home.
Yes. I'm already looking at my ticket, so you shall hear all about that.
And you can follow me on social media at JamieUps and at Pario Magazine. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/JamieAppsMedia. The following people supported at the community support group level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support. Brian and June Hart, Blake Robinson, Corrina Renee, Courtney Paulson, Darren Hatcliffe, Jackson Carr, and Tracy Apps.